Welcome to the Empower Hour with Greater Nashua Mental Health. The Empower Hour will provide information and support about mental health, substance use, and behavioral health. Our goal is to share inspiring stories about transforming lives, to strike down stigma, and to encourage our community to reach out and get help when needed. Mental health is part of all of our lives. It's time we talk about it. I'm Dr. Cynthia Whitaker, President and CEO of Greater Nashua Mental Health, and it's time to get empowered. Hello, and welcome to Empower Hour with Greater Nashua Mental Health. I'm Dr. Cynthia Whitaker, the President and CEO at Greater Nashua Mental Health. And in this show, the Empower Hour, we hope to give you tips, tricks to empower yourself, to empower those of your family and friends, and to make sure we have an empowered community. Sometimes we share about things happening at Greater Nashua Mental Health. Sometimes we share about topics related to the community. Today, I'm delighted to have Keith Thomas with me. He's a case manager at Greater Nashua Mental Health, and he's been with us for over 5 years. Keith, thank you for being here with me today.
You're welcome, Cynthia.
I'd love to start with just a little bit about what you love about your job. Like, what is it that's fulfilling being a case manager, or even why you decided this was what you want to do?
I like being able to, whatever a client is struggling with, I like to be able to talk to them about it. Even if it may not be something that's scheduled at that time, and give them some information. I have a whole bunch of things bookmarked on the internet about depression, anxiety, PTSD, you name it. And if I can just say one thing to make their day better and help them to be at peace, I know I've done my job.
When you say that, it makes me think, does that mean every day looks different? Because you say, with whatever comes up is kind of what you just said. So does every day look different?
Every day does look different.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are mishaps that happen. I took someone for a physical in Amherst last Monday. I thought it would be an hour. It was 2 hours. I had to cancel my next appointment.
So what kinds of things do you get to support people with?
I help them with paperwork for DHHS, Medicaid, food stamps, help them fill out applications for housing. Maybe I help them make some phone calls to a few resources in case they're nervous and they need some support.
Oh, great. So not only are you giving information, but you're also supporting in maybe whatever the next step is with that information.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how do you know what a person needs help with? Like, what's like the first time you meet somebody look like?
It's a little awkward. Doing a whole bunch of assessments definitely helps, like the ANSA, the DLA, the case management assessment. And then you get to think and plan and go about attacking the thing just one step at a time.
So we have assessments, an ANSA, like in a needs and strengths assessment, and a DLA is like the daily living skills assessment, something like that. And you use those tools to help figure out maybe where a person's gaps or needs are. And then whatever comes up, it sounds like too.
A lot of our clients, they have the barrier of not having transportation provided to them, or they're not being able to go to a dentist and get a cleaning and pay for it out of pocket. And they certainly have some struggles with their finances. I find those the three things that are really there for a case manager to help a client overcome.
So a case manager helps clients figure out how to overcome things that they might feel stuck with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you can see some great progress. I had a client that was struggling with PTSD. She really needed a therapist. and she got one, and just amazed to see the difference night and day in her.
So almost like you were there helping support until that other resource was ready.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I can imagine that happens with other things, like you mentioned transportation.
Yes.
Like okay, trying to help people figure out how to use transportation or whatever is accessible, but then maybe even providing it or thinking about how other ways to get it until it's possible, right?
And a lot of our clients, they have Medicaid and they do have transportation through their Medicaid plan. Sometimes it's a challenge to help them set things up and have things follow through, but it is a resource. We also have bus passes.
Right, that for qualified people, you can help them access that. Yeah, that's awesome. So that's a great example. So you just mentioned, so somebody might have Medicaid, which gives them access to a service, but maybe they didn't know about that service.
Right.
Or maybe the way to then get that service is confusing or takes a lot. And so, like, how do you manage that differently with different people?
Yes. A lot of times it's funny because you learn to have a rapport with certain people. You may talk to a client differently from one client to the other. And you may share things, some words of wisdom to help them. I often find that my tone of voice changes from client to client.
So really, like case management is like the core of meeting somebody where they're at.
Right.
Like we talk about that a lot in the mental health field, right? Like we're going to meet somebody where they're at. And often in therapy, that means, I'm not going to, tell you to, deep breathe 5 times a day if like we haven't learned how to do it yet. We're going to start slow. Like often that's what we mean when we say meet someone where they're at. But you're literally meeting somebody where they're at without transportation, without access to, maybe somebody doesn't have access to food stamps or know how to access food pantries.
Right, yes. I'm familiar with a couple of food pantries in the area.
Yeah. So do the different case managers share different resources? Like if you find something, like how do you learn about how to connect people to different things?
A lot of times emails go back and forth.
Yeah.
So someone will find something and they're really excited about it and they'll email the rest of us and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I would think after so many years in the community and doing this role that you've learned a lot of resources.
Yes, definitely have.
And how do you go about like establishing the relationship with different folks in our community, or just what does that look like?
It takes time.
Yeah.
For one client that I had gotten a couple of weeks ago, he's spanking brand new, and I was asked to write a treatment plan on the spot, which I did. But I also had gone to his house and did the case management direct with him, but then offered to take him to his eye appointment that I helped him schedule.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing the treatment plan on the spot. Sometimes the paperwork, it comes with the job, right?
It certainly does.
So you mentioned you went to his home and worked directly with him.
Yes.
Is all of what you do direct with a person, like in person with them, or is there other aspects of that work?
There are other aspects. There are times when we need to help them set up appointments for them so it fits within our schedule. So that's when we do something on their behalf. Or sometimes it's calling DHHS to find out what's going on and how to resolve something.
So
those kind of things.
Like getting information about what is the next step for someone.
Right.
So that you're clear and can help explain it rather than kind of staying stuck in that frustration of what's the next step.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's a typical day look like? Is there such a thing as a typical day?
Typical day. I start off early, get all my notes and stuff out of the way. Either I'll go to a client's house or apartment and work with them, or maybe take them to a medical appointment or take them out food shopping if they need that. Sometimes things that are planned don't go that way, so you have to come up with plan B.
And a lot of phone calls too?
A lot of phone calls, a lot of emails.
A lot of emails to like...
I would say people within our agency.
So coordinating care with the rest of the treatment team.
Right, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
There are times when a few of my clients really don't grasp being able to call and make an appointment with their prescriber. So I wait till their callback date and I do it for them and then inform them when it is and go with them.
And then there are other clients who are doing it independently.
Right, right.
Yeah. So what I love about case management is exactly what you're describing, right? It's like figuring out what the person needs or what might be impacting their mental health or their ability to move through the system,
right?
That's meant to support them, and then doing what matches that individual. So for some people, you're making calls on their behalf. For other people, you're sitting next to them and calling with them.
Right.
For other people, you're handing them a phone number and they're calling on their own.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. And so it's really about meeting someone where they're at and what they need. And maybe over time, you're doing all of those three things with somebody.
Exactly.
Right? I'm sure there are clients you started with maybe doing on their behalf.
Right.
And maybe they've progressed to doing it more independently. Can you think of a client where that's happened?
I certainly can.
Yeah.
One of my original clients I've had for over 5 years, he's come a long way.
Yeah.
So I used to help him with making phone calls or getting the form to fill out and then sending it off. Now he does these things independently.
Nice. And so you're there more for if a question comes up or a barrier comes up.
Right.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think sometimes case management, people don't understand what it is. Like they think it's literally, and maybe that's because different places do it different from us. But a lot of people do think it is here's the phone number you should call, or here's the contact, please call.
Right.
And I think what we've found over time, right, is that doesn't work for a lot of people, right? That mental health symptoms, or even sometimes just regular human anxiety, right? Never mind even if it's a symptom of mental illness, might get in the way of somebody following through. And so having a case manager that constantly monitors, hey, were you able to make that call? Or if you weren't, what got in the way? Can I help you? Just helps it.
Sometimes it's great to do it spur on the moment. Oh, let's give them a call.
Yeah, right away. Like, let's just do it today. Yeah.
Just kind of guide them a little bit. And then once things are set up, great.
Wow. Yeah. And, I think the other thing that, like, there's a myth about mental health treatment, right? Or people think mental health care is therapy and medication, maybe group therapy, maybe family therapy. Like a lot of things could be in that therapy bucket. But that's not really our model.
No. I have a few clients that struggle with depression, anxiety, and I'll look up some stuff with them. Sometimes it can be a few videos. I've come across some great people in the mental health field that are on the internet. And sometimes they really take to them and they take the ball and run with it.
Right. So a little bit of education.
Yes,
too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That reminds me of, I think a lot of our case managers are duly trained in what we call IMR. or
Yes.
illness management
and
recovery.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of focus on education in that program, right?
Correct. There's tons of it.
Yeah. Like what does that look like if you're going through IMR with a client?
I'll read the text, and there are times when I'll come across something, and even before I say it, I'll realize, well, no, this doesn't really pertain to them. So I find a way around it and say something else.
So again, meeting them where they're at, right?
Exactly.
If there's part of the curriculum of IMR that doesn't match them, you're not going to force it.
Exactly. Exactly.
But what does it look like when it's going well, when it does match? Like what does that look like?
You can see a light bulb go off in their head.
Oh, I love it.
Maybe they find a coping skill that they really like, whether it be deep breathing, muscle relaxation, guided imagery. I think the goal of it is to instill definitely a lot of hope, but also to empower them so they don't see the mental illness as this big ball that they have to carry, and that over time it becomes a smaller ball.
That's more, it fits in your pocket.
Right, exactly.
Easier to manage. So,
Right.
so that the case manager role in our agency is kind of this monitoring, linking, referring to things that help with social determinants of health, right? Like transportation, dental care, housing. We've numbered off a few of them. But also this kind of supporting role of education and tool giving and support and
Right.
what a balance.
Yeah, I always feel good when I'm able to present something new that they can put in their mental toolbox and use. That I like.
I know when I was in the role of doing therapy with folks, that, you know, what that means and what we can bill for and do is constrained, right, in therapy.
Correct.
And often it would be people would take those tools that they learned in therapy and practice them with the case manager. Okay, so now I'm feeling anxious about DHHS in this application. So we can talk about the skills in therapy, about what thoughts are getting in your way, what this is getting in your way, that emails like back and forth with the treatment team we were mentioning. And then the case manager can actually go and try it
Exactly.
with them. And
Right.
how rewarding that is.
That is. It's great to see progress. It's great when they start to take something and use it on their own. And that we see results.
Yeah, and yet there are people who you have on your caseload that have been on your caseload for 5 years. So you mention other people, but they're making progress. So maybe your
Correct.
role is different.
With one individual, there was a lot of case management and a shared duty of functional support, but now I just do IMR with him. And he's very good at coming up with his own coping skills to use. There are times when I'll point something out and see another light bulb go on.
I think one of the most powerful things you said I want to go back to is the hope.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking about, I'm a person who struggles with mental illness or symptoms of, mental illness. And then I've got this DHHS application. I've got maybe a lease that I don't understand the language for, or I've got all these things coming at me that can feel very overwhelming.
Correct.
And so just knowing that there's somebody there to support, to ask questions of, to say, let's look at these all individually, or like, somebody comes to you in that state, like overwhelmed, like what do you do?
I talk with them a little bit, reassure them that it's going to work out in the end. And I say, hey, let's just start with the basic information, name, address, phone number. And then we get into expenses and assets and social security numbers and Medicaid numbers.
And making sure all the things are lined up
Correct.
as they need to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And the great thing is we do have a couple of resources that either we can use or our clients can use, such as our accounts specialists, as well as our housing specialists.
Right. So again, kind of that importance of what we do is more than therapy and medication, coming
Correct.
really around the person. So you can, if something with somebody's benefits, you mentioned benefits support. So if somebody's benefits is more confusing than you can manage,
Right.
you can refer or get support,
Correct.
either yourself or the client.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. Interesting.
Huh.
Because I don't think, again, I don't think people know that about what we do. I often hear from like the staff that work with our intakes, right? When people are first coming in, it's a better way to say that, that people are all, I need a therapist and a doctor. But then we find out, maybe their Medicaid lapsed or they're facing eviction or
Right.
there's legal challenges. Right. And it's like, yes,
Yeah.
therapy and medication might help with symptoms, but those symptoms aren't going to fully go down if all of this other stress is happening in
That's
somebody's
correct.
life.
That's correct. And it's good that we have legal resources too. We have mental health court, drug court. So that helps a lot as well.
Yeah, and people that understand that the system a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah. So what's your elevator pitch? You know what I mean when I say that? So like if somebody said, met you for the first time, Keith, what do you do for work? What's your answer? Like, what do you say? I mean,
I connect them with resources that they need.
so you connect people with resources that they need.
Yes.
Yeah, I might add to that that makes their life better.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, because we all have resources that we need, but I think the resources that some of the clients come in needing from us are really ones that make a big difference.
Definitely. Definitely. I knew a client a year ago. She was looking for her own apartment. So I set up an appointment with one of the housing specialists, did an assessment, and right away she says, well, I can think of one apartment off of Amherst Street. And bam, within a couple of days, she was signing the lease and she was in.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, that is.
That's amazing. And yeah, it's like connecting people to information and resources, probably that many of us take for granted.
Right. And it's at the right place and the right time.
Yeah, and really listening to what somebody's needs are, maybe,
Right.
too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hearing stories of just how vital this service is,
Yes.
too. I mean, that example of, just making that connection for somebody and now they have a place to live, or
Right.
getting somebody's Medicaid working. I can think of a couple of my own examples. That always happens to me, where somebody was struggling to get Medicaid, and then one phone call figured out, oh, it's because they don't have this one piece of paper, and then it's like,
Right.
oh, but that takes a phone call to Massachusetts or something, right?
Right.
Something, and just like, and boom, that what seems simple can just change the trajectory.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Last fall, I had a client who his food stamps, his time was going to run out. And sometimes DHHS will give you 10 days grace period. So it's the last day, the last afternoon, certain documents needed to be signed by the guardian. So luckily I called her and she's like, yeah, all right, I'll come down, I'll sign them, and then I'll see the client. I'm like, oh, phew. Because it took so many barriers. I couldn't fax things to her because it wasn't working. And I wasn't getting her on the phone in the morning, but everything managed to line up right at the last minute. It's when you actually go that extra mile.
And I know a lot of our case managers go the extra mile.
Yeah.
Right? Like that one more phone call. I'll try one more time.
Right. Yes. Yep.
And often that's when the success comes.
Right.
You know? And if you're an individual who's struggling with mental illness, you might have given up 2 phone calls ago.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And so that the case manager to walk alongside and continue to support.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of them they'll give up either because there's no motivation or it's just makes them very anxious.
Yeah.
That's when we come in and we do the 2 extra phone calls or maybe an email to someone else. Or maybe we try to find another means for the resource.
Or take a couple of deep breaths while we fill out the paperwork.
You're right. Right.
Yeah. You know, I feel like we're talking about, case management. We connect people to resources, and it's so much more.
It is. It definitely is.
It's so much more.
I had a client who was physically ill as well as mentally ill. So this was during the pandemic, and I would call him either to do functional support or illness management and recovery. And wouldn't you know it, he would stay on the phone with me for a whole hour through it.
Wow.
And that made me feel good because I was told, you're a lifeline to this client. So,
Right. I mean, especially during that time of isolation.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet case managers don't hear that enough, that they are a lifeline.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And guiding people too, right? Guiding people to the resource that's right for them at the right time.
Right.
What do you wish clients knew about case management before they started?
We can help them with certain barriers, but there are times when there's only so much we can do because we're limited. And it's not that we're washing our hands, it's just because of certain circumstances, our hands are tied. And that's tough. It's tough for them, and sometimes it's tough for us.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. The immediate example that comes to my mind is like housing, because I think housing specialists experience that too. Like, we can't miraculously make a landlord accept an application or, change rules that other agencies have.
Right.
And we can keep trying and keep looking and keep holding out hope that the right time or the right fit will come up. But I think that's probably a common one.
Definitely.
Yeah. Is there anything else that kind of you wish people knew, or is that kind of the big one?
That's a big one. But also sometimes like their family members or significant others don't quite understand the role that we play. So sometimes we have to explain it to them a little bit. There are certain things we can absolutely do. Certain services we can absolutely provide. But then there are times when there's just nothing we can do because of the client has self-determination.
Yeah.
Yep.
I now understand what you're getting at. So maybe a family member is frustrated because they isn't housed. We'll stick with the housing example. But if we presented 3 apartments that the person doesn't want to live in, we can't force them. Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point.
That is.
It makes me think about, does that mean you're often in the place of also providing education to family members?
At times, yes.
Yeah.
And I think they need it because they have their own frustrations. And sometimes educating them about mental illness and about limitations is really important. And also providing them with resources such as NAMI or a few other organizations to connect with.
Yeah. So not only helping the individual, but helping their support system.
Exactly.
Also navigate, again, resources, supports, education about system rules, barriers.
Right.
The things that are needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can tell, and I've known you for the 5 years you've worked for us, but I've always been impressed by your passion for this job.
Thank you.
Because I think it really shows and comes out in the care that you give the clients.
Yeah.
So I hope it's catchy. And others have that same passion. And I know we've asked you to do some things like help train others.
Right. Yes.
So I hope you not only train them with the to-dos, but also the how to be passionate and caring.
Exactly.
And because I really appreciate that you model that. And I can hear it even in the stories you're telling.
And it's about coming down to their level and being eye to eye with them.
Right.
I think that's very important. Empathy.
Yeah. I think sometimes having information can feel like a privilege, right? And so even in just imparting and giving, let me give you the information I have.
Exactly.
And you can decide what to do with it.
Yeah.
Like, just takes away that, like, I'm not more powerful than you. I'm going to share with what I have.
Right.
And we're in this together to figure out the best way
Exactly.
to move forward
Yeah.
in a way that's respectful of that individual and what they want.
Right.
You use the term self-determination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And someone very wise once told me knowledge is power. So I keep that in mind when I help them with case management things, but also with illness management and recovery and maybe a few other things as well.
What a perfect segue into, so how do we empower each other, our clients, ourselves? If knowledge is power, sharing knowledge, learning knowledge, certainly empowering.
Right.
Is there anything else you'd add to that? Like, how do you in your role as a case manager empower others?
There are times when I'll bring up a certain exercise or a story or an analogy or maybe a concept that they have not heard of, such as cognitive behavior therapy. I might see that they have some problems with catastrophic thoughts. I'm like, hey, you're not the only one who has a problem with this. There's so many other people that have a problem with this as well. Let's take a look at this for a little bit. And that helps a bit.
So not only the knowledge, but ensuring people know they're not alone.
Very, very important, because a lot of times our clients will tell us the things that are going on with them, and they think that they're the only person that is going through this, and they're not. And I reassure them all the time, you're not alone.
Right. Or yes, this system is hard to understand. You're not the only person, right? I've heard people, refer to themselves negatively because they couldn't understand. And it's like, it's hard for all of us.
Right.
Right? Just with experience and helping others that we figure it out.
Right.
Yeah. All right. One more, going back to the beginning. So tell me again what you most love about your job, because I bet there's a little more in there now that we've been talking about it for 30 minutes or so. Like, What really do you love about this job?
That I can make a big difference in their life. That I can make their day. That maybe they can see something different in a way that they didn't before.
So that impact you get to make.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it hard to get to the point where you feel like you're making an impact? Because all of it, what popped into my head is I think sometimes people can feel afraid as a staff person about the weight of that responsibility you just described.
Right.
Well, I got to know all these resources. I got to know all this stuff. Like, what would you say to that person? Or was it hard to learn how to do this?
It takes some time.
Yeah.
But I find the staff at our agency very supportive, very understanding. And I think a lot of us have been where that new person has been. So we're able to impart our wisdom and encouragement. And if they're having a hard time with them, say, hey, don't be so hard on yourself. Just try to do better next time.
Yeah. And you share what you know, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So great. So great. For me, I really wanted to have a conversation about case management. Again, I think people often think about mental health services as therapy and medication and forget about how important it really is and how much the other stuff impacts mental health. I mean, I can imagine, the person that you were able to get to sign that lease in a couple of days, that their mood probably brightened.
Yes, definitely.
And so just the impact that all of that has on mental health, I think we really can't underestimate just how vital it is.
Right. And some of the barriers that they face are actually some of the things in Module 1 in illness management and recovery that are outlined, whether it be housing, socialization, transportation, so many things.
Yeah.
And then they are able to come up with a recovery goal for that. And then it's great to see them achieve that goal.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. So good. Because it's helping people with tangible stuff.
Right.
That has true impact on their life.
Right. Another resource, of course, is getting connected to Social Security.
Yeah.
Applying for disability. It does take a while.
Yeah.
But we get them we do the phone call with them. Maybe we accompany them to the interview. Maybe we help them collect certain documentation that's needed. And also just encourage the client to not give up. Someone used to say to me, it's all about apply, 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 even though they get denied. Keep on applying.
And don't give up.
Right, exactly.
I giggle because I just had this is how my brain works, but I just had this image of we need little don't give up bracelets to pass out, right?
Yes.
Don't give up, keep going. You're worth it,
Right.
It might feel hard and it is hard, and don't give up.
Right.
And it's I picture little case managers, cheering people on.
Yes.
Yeah. Little case manager on my shoulder. Don't give up. Keep going.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I always give the opportunity. Is there anything else or anything I didn't ask you or that we haven't talked about that you want people to know about the day in the life of a case manager?
Actually, Bridget Shanholz once gave us an analogy. She said it's like being in a boat and there's a leak. And you finally fix the leak and you're happy. But then 2 more leaks come along and you got to turn around and take care of them.
And so you're the boat fixer.
Right, exactly.
Even though maybe your job is to actually fix it. Maybe your job is to get somebody else to fix it, right?
Absolutely.
Or connect the person to the right resource to fix the whole.
Right.
And that sounds like human life, right?
Definitely.
Right? All of our boats have holes from time to time. Yeah, what a great analogy. Yeah. What a great analogy. Well, thank you again, Keith. I appreciate your time today talking about the importance of case manager, what it means to be a case manager. And I think you're a great example, too, of case management isn't just the job you take while you're waiting to become a therapist.
Right.
It can be a career. It can be a job somebody wants to keep doing and grow and learn at, and maybe become a supervisor of case managers or, whatever. So I also appreciate that example too, because I think that's another myth. Right. People think, oh, I'll get a job as a case manager while I'm training to be a therapist. But that doesn't have to be it.
True.
So thank you for also being an example of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate that too. Yeah. Well, thank you for tuning in and joining us for this episode of the Empower Hour with Greater Nashua Mental Health. We've been chatting about what it means to be a case manager, to provide case management, to provide other supports like illness management and recovery, and just how important that service is in addition to all the other mental health services that are provided at Greater Nashua Mental Health. So thank you so much for joining in, and have an empowered day.